gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Hey, what is happening, everybody out there in YouTube land? It is Gas Masks and Hand Grenades here. I'm your host, Jeff. We've been away for a while. There's a lot going on, man. I was away at Maryland Death Fest for a good long week. We were actually supposed to do this interview about 2 weeks ago. Got our wires a little crossed. Sorry about that, Mike. And here we are. So I have Mr. Mike Browning here with me from Nocturnus AD. How are you, Mike? Good to see you.
Great. Doing really good. How you doing, man?
Cool, man. I'm still recovering. My 58-year-old body is not used to being awake at 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. every day and getting up 3 hours later and going and meddling out like I was all last week. So I'm still crazily a week later. I'm still coming back from it a little bit. So
I know. I just turned 60 last weekend, so
man.
I'm in the 60 and over club now.
The geriatric club. It's weird, man. It's like I've always been a dude that's gone hard most of my life, but that really was an eye-opening experience. It was it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And you guys played there 2 years ago in 2022, right?
Yeah, and then back a couple of years before that too. We've done it twice, Maryland Death Fest. It's just an awesome event.
It really is. And those guys, man, hails to the guys that do that fest. Wow. What an incredible, it's so well run, man. I mean, it's so, I'd say my only negative about it is that they had so many great bands in 2022 and this year that you had to kind of pick and choose. You had to kind of skip a few things that you really would have loved to have seen because maybe a band that you liked a little bit more was, the headliner or whatever. So,
yeah. I would have liked the venues were a little closer in distance, that way you can kind of run over and see this band and maybe offset a little bit more. But
they did change that around.
I don't know how they organize what they do because there must be so much work to that. It's insane.
Yeah. And they did change it around this time from 2022, Mike, in that, everybody was on the Edison lot. So all the big name bands were kind of like there. But if you really wanted to see someone over at the Rams Head, you had to catch a bus. Here, it was all right around the Rams Head. They had the outdoor stage in front of the Rams Head at the power plant. But then if you went to the other side where the sound stage was, they blocked the road off at the end there at the harbor. And that was the stage for like Dismember and Mayhem and Agalloch. So it was cool. You didn't have as much travel.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's much better.
Hey, well, listen, the reason we're here is to talk about the new Nocturnus AD specifically. And we spoke backstage, and we're going to get you on for a fuller, deeper dive on Mike Browning and the stories of old. But let's talk about the new album that just came out on May 17th on Profound Lore called Unicursal. Seems like it's doing really well. You're doing a lot of press for it. What's the general vibe on it right now?
Well, I think a lot of people do like it. They're saying it's a pretty good, follow up to Paradox, that it falls in line with the Key Paradox and now this one. And that's what we were going for, just to try to keep in the same kind of vein of the storylines. The music's a little different here and there. We want to try new things, of course, but then still try to keep the old style in there as much as possible. And I tried some different things with the vocals, more narrative type stuff because of the storytelling. It's right. I honed a little bit more down on the story itself, and it became a little bit more, congealed as a story.
Well, so tell us a little bit about the story. I mean, for those that may not know, it kind of continues on from the Key and the prior album, Paradox, right? I mean, it's kind of a linear narrative. So give us a thumbnail sketch of what that whole story is about for those people that aren't familiar.
Well, it did start on the Key with like the last 4 songs, and it really they just started out as songs at first, but then after Andromeda Strain and Droids, I kind of like, when I came up with the Destroying the Manger idea, I kind of congealed it to work with the other two songs a little bit more. And then when we wrote Empire of the Sands, that one kind of finished it out and made it more of a thing, you know, like a story. But it's still, even then, it was an evil scientist that was ravaged by a war plague in Andromeda Strain. Then the aliens attacked the Earth when it was really vulnerable from Andromeda Strain. And this evil scientist retreated to a cave and built a biosuit to stay alive because he got ravaged by the Andromeda Strain. Then he finds an alien ship gets shot down and by his secret cave that he's built to live in. And he finds inside the spaceship, he goes and investigates. He finds the key, which is the symbol. Then he builds a time machine and goes back in time and destroys Jesus in the manger, so he can actually take over the earth instead of when Christianity took over the earth. So, and then he builds an empire in the sand. And then, like, so I always wanted to continue that story, but it didn't happen on Threshold. So when I did Nocturnus AD again, it was just strictly mainly to do that, to continue that key story. Now, there's other songs that are continued as well, but I really wanted to continue that story, and it didn't happen on Threshold. So with Paradox, I took the last 4 songs of the record again, and then I continued that story where after Empire of the Sands, he's there in Egypt. He finds a secret room under the Sphinx that has all this like alien technology in it. And again, the key works and opens up a portal to where he goes to where these beings reside.
Mm-hmm.
And they take him and they put him in a machine and give him more power and kind of like give him a lot of they kind of rewire his whole brain to where he knows everything. And now he's like become much more powerful than a person. And he's kind of supposed to like prepare mankind for them to come back, for these aliens to come back and in a different way to where they're actually, you know, knowing that they're not coming back in an attack kind of form this time. But so then with the new record, Unicursal, that's where it kind of ends off, where they put him in a machine and redone his whole rewire type of thing and give him more powers.
Right.
Now in Unicursal, they send him on more missions to empower himself. So basically they rewired his brain. Now they're going to send him on things to empower himself and make him more powerful in his own right. Okay. So they send him to this giant floating tree of life and death out in space, and all the 10 or actually 11 Sephiroth of the tree of life stand for a different type of thing. So each one is like a gate or a portal. So he has to go into each one and conquer that. And then in each one of those spheres, there's a sigil that, like the one on his chest, that he has to collect.
Right.
So he has to, each one has its own, like Yesod is about the unconscious and things like that, like realizing you can make your own way, you know, sort of like that. There's like a moon beast, and he has to conquer the moon beast and take the sigil. And then
let me ask you one thing real quick, because I know that in early days you were very influenced or very hyper, sort of, maybe fixated is the wrong word, but you were hyper into the Necronomicon, right? So, or Necronomicon, I guess, however you pronounce that. So have you always been very literary in terms of like your influences? Like, I mean, obviously there's the oh my God, I always forget this guy's name. Who's the dude? The Cthulhu dude.
Oh, Lovecraft.
Yeah, God, I can never remember his fucking name. It drives me insane. Lovecraftian, like Fritz Lieber, you know, Michael Moorcock. Did you read a lot of that kind of stuff as a young guy? Yeah. Okay. So you were always kind of semi-influenced to write your narrative of this story in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I mean, when I discovered the book, the Necronomicon, I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I ran into Trey too. He was in high school and I was in high school, and we met each other. He was a new student that came into the school. Unfortunately, I was in 12th grade and he was in 11th. So I was already almost on my way out of school when I met him. Right. But we came, you know, we saw each other, and, you know, we both realized we were musicians, and he played guitar, I played drums, and he was into the occult and I was into the occult, and he had, you know, he knew a lot about the Necronomicon. And so I was like, wow. And nobody in my school was like that.
Right.
And here comes all of a sudden this guy just appears like halfway through the school year, and it's like, wow. So we started talking, and you know, since he played guitar and I played drums, it's like, let's do a little band, you know, and we played the school, like the school talent show. So anyway, we can get into that in
But
the
these
next
were
one.
all
But,
themes that you were always kind of exploring lyrically, as opposed to the sex, drug, and rock and roll type stuff, right?
right. So I, you know, I mean, I always was interested in that stuff. I was probably into the occult a year or two before I even started playing drums before that, you know. So I had always had books and things, you know, and reading, because, you know, in the 70s, in the 80s, you didn't have internet, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have anything but books and movies, and that's it.
Right. I'm gonna
So,
bring up I'm gonna bring up the album cover here.
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so, you know, basically with Unicursal, there's the tree of life, as you can see, and
Mm-hmm.
it's floating in space, and he's sent on a mission to go through basically the 7 lower spheres. Are a lot of emotions and human aspects is what they stand for. The bottom one is the earth, so he's already pretty
Right.
much conquered that in Empire of the Sands and destroying the manger. So it starts where he goes into Yesod, which is the moon, and then he starts going through the other spheres, which are planets.
Right.
So when he goes to these spheres, he has to conquer a certain aspect of that sphere, what it stands for, and then it basically empowers him, and he gets a sigil from it, and then he can move on to the next pathway, which takes him to the next sphere. And so he's kind of moving his way through this tree of life, and as they're all connected by paths.
Right.
So, and that's what unicursal. Unicursal is it means in a closed system of something, you can draw, like when you draw a pentagram, you know, like an upside down pentagram like that
Mm-hmm.
in the air,
Right.
it doesn't stop. You know, it
Right.
just
It's
goes. You
linear.
don't. Yeah, it's linear, exactly. So is the tree of life is a linear symbol, and when he's going like this, you know, like this, it's an unbroken line all the way to the top in a closed system. So that's what unicursal actually means.
I guess so. You know, in keeping with the fact that we have to make this fairly quick here. What I've read or heard some other interviews, and one of the things I found interesting, you know, a lot of times in a lot of bands, you have like that one guy or those two guys that are the primary songwriters. In your band, it sounds like in Nocturnus AD, you guys do a lot of improving together. You sit down in a room and kind of come up with these things in a like a system, a flow system sort of thing. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, for sure. But this is with the music, of course.
Right.
We practice. We have a practice room. I converted my garage over, so we practice here at my house, and it's really nice, air conditioned and everything. And so we actually uh, go in there, and the whole album started with just one riff. So as far as that, we started with one riff. Like I'll look at Damien and go, okay, throw out a riff, and he'll bring a riff in, and then we'll start working on that. And then I'll look at Belial, our other guitar player, and go, okay, now you throw in a riff, and we'll match those two riffs together, and we'll start building the song that way. Okay, we
Right.
got 2 or 3 riffs. Now let's come up with a bridge here, and then we'll make a little bridge into a chorus, and we build the songs that way. And this time, our keyboard player also was there for almost most of the writing days when we were writing, and he threw in a lot of new stuff too. Like he'll come up with a keyboard riff now, and then they'll add guitar to that and drum, and I'll add drums to that. So we built every song from one riff.
From the ground up, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like a lot of bands, like you said, the guitar player might write the whole song to a drum machine and then bring it in and say, hey, here it is, learn it. And a lot of things are done that way these days. And I just don't like doing that. I like everybody to have and feel like they've got a big part of the album.
Do you do that? I would imagine you do that in rehearsal. You're not doing that in the studio. You go in well practiced when you're ready to start recording and tracking, right?
Yeah, we did. Everything was done way before. Pretty much put together before we went into the studio. The only thing was I kind of waited too long to write the vocals because I usually do the lyrics after we do the music. But
Okay.
what I do is I have a lot of song titles that I'll come up with a song title in my head and I'll put it in my notes in my phone. And when I
Right.
come up with that song title, I kind of have a whole story to back it up with the title. So I have all these, I had about 10 or 12 song titles written down, and we had maybe 5 or 6 of the songs written already. And then I would we'd make a little quick recording here just so you could have something to listen to, and I'll listen to the song, the music, and go, which title really goes with that, feels like it goes with that music. So
Okay.
then I'll pick out the title for it, and then I'll start writing the lyrics. And when we build the songs, we make sure we have places for the leads. We make sure we have bridges. We make sure we have choruses. While we're writing, I'm pretty good at arranging, so I let them come up with the riffs, and then I put a beat to
And
it,
you
and
just
then
start putting some
we
puzzle
start
pieces.
arranging. Yeah, like a puzzle. We start putting it together,
Yeah.
right there, and that way I know where I'm going to put the chorus, where I'm going to put this, where the leads are going to be, and all that. So I don't write lyrics and then go, oh shoot, I wanted to put a lead there,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's well thought out. In other words, you plan this. And this one, we should mention, we're talking literally 5 years on from Paradox. So, of course, we had this little thing called COVID that kind of happened in the interim there. So that probably shut down a lot of face-to-face working. Did you guys do anything like at home? Were you sending riffs back and forth at all during that, or did you wait until things
well,
cleared up
in the
enough?
beginning, yeah, in the beginning we didn't, because COVID, right when it first hit, nobody even left their
You had no
house.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a good year and a half where we didn't really hardly get together or do anything at all. And everybody was kind of worried about this, catching it. And then just
Yeah.
about all of us got it
Of course.
over that, because I don't think anybody in the band ended up getting the jab.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, none of us got the shots. So, but it's okay. I'm still alive and I'm here. So, and I got it twice, and the second time wasn't nearly as bad as the first time. But like
Oh, yeah.
everybody pretty much got that, and so we've had that was like where you're almost a half a month right there where you don't get
Sure.
together, and you figure that times 4 or 5 people is almost a year right there.
Mhm.
So we didn't get together a lot for those first 2 years. Right after Paradox came out, it hit COVID and everything. We had shows planned, we had everything going pretty good and steady, and everything just fell apart.
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of build everything back together. And our label's really good about this stuff. They don't push us and with a time limit. So he knows we're going to do what we're supposed to do. So he doesn't push us
Okay.
with like, oh, you got to have the album done by this time or whatever. He's really good about that stuff. And he knows we're going to put out something worthwhile, and even if it takes a little longer. And he's okay with that. So we actually did take our time. And plus the album, we recorded it over a long period of time because the studio that we use is in Orlando and we're in Tampa, which is
Oh,
about an hour and a half drive. And
yep.
since we all have week weekday jobs, we would
Jobs, yeah,
literally, get up early Saturday morning, drive to the studio, record,
all day
till
long. Yeah.
yeah, all day long, and go back home, and then come back on Sundays sometimes. And then, Jarrett, he runs sound, so he had some tours booked for not long stuff, but some of them
Sure.
were a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then you had the holidays, that messed things up. So we started in October recording, and then but we didn't finish the recording till January. And then we did some mixing. Then he had another tour, so we got back in February and kind of started mixing in February and a little bit in March,
What
and then mastering. So
are are you
we got it done. It took a little while, but it was good.
are you guys planning to do any? You guys are day jobbers. You're lifers. This is kind of more your hobby than it is it's not paying the bills in a sense, right? But
Right.
are you what kind of touring can you do realistically on the back of Unicursal, or is it something that Is it more of a localized thing, or would you be able to go out on a 2 or 3 week thing if that arose for you?
Well, that we've been offered that kind of stuff a lot actually, but we can't do those couple week things. What we like to do is try to. Luckily, since I do have a long history in music, in metal, I should
Sure.
say, we can get on some decent festivals.
Yeah.
So we try to like focus on that kind of stuff where we can fly out on a Thursday night maybe and just take Friday and Monday off and
Right.
then literally play somewhere. We can even play in Europe Friday and Saturday and be back at our jobs on Monday, which is crazy to think, but and it's pretty hectic to do that, but we can do it.
Right.
So we could do that 4-5 times a year. And we were doing that until the COVID thing hit. But so now that the album's out, we are starting to get some kind of offers, but they're already for 2025. So
Okay, yeah, right.
because of bookings and things like that.
Sure.
So we're talking to South America, Canada, Europe again. So we will definitely be doing more shows. But hopefully they'll be focused more on smaller and bigger festivals, and maybe like while we're there on a weekend, we can throw in a show on a Sunday or something like that.
Sure, and that's where you can kind of get your best bang for your buck, because you and I both know. I mean, you probably more so than me, but I know enough from all my friends and doing small things myself that, going out in a van, man, for 5 or 6 weeks, you are slogging it. It is for guys in their 50s and 60s, man. It is not an easy way to do things. If you're in your 20s and 30s, it's kind of like an adventure. But when you're in your 50s and 60s, it's a pain in the ass for the most part.
And you still don't come back with enough money to pay the bills.
Exactly. Exactly. So what talk real briefly about the artist. Is this the same artist that did Paradox? I didn't have a chance to look. Is it?
No, there was two different people. Huey Jarling did this, and he actually I worked with him back in 2018 to design the 3D Dr. Magus character, and I'm actually wearing a shirt of him that
oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh,
my
cool.
girlfriend had for my birthday.
Yeah, it looks cool.
So, this guy who designed, he made a 3D model of him, so he could be used in videos, games, all like video games, videos, anything really. And so he designed that 3D model for me back then, so we could do the Apotheosis video for Paradox, and then so I had him do the cover this time. Some Timbul Kayano did the Paradox cover, but I think what I want to try to do is have somebody different do the covers every time.
Okay.
But still keep Dr. Magus as the figure on the cover.
Right.
Sure. But having different artists do the different covers kind of gives it more variance, even though it's kind of like with Iron Maiden, but I think they use the same guy.
They do, yeah.
But I'm not sure. But they always have Riggs. Eddie on the cover. But I kind of like having different artists do the cover, but still using the same character.
Right.
So you still get that coherence, cohesive type of thing going on for all the covers.
But you get everyone's perspective of maybe hearing the music and incorporating what the music kind of allows them to see with the overall artistic impression of it, right?
I give them a really, really detailed idea of what I want on the cover, and then I just let them go from there.
Yeah, that's a killer cover, man. It might be my favorite one so far. So, yeah, so we're up against it right now, 25. I think I'm going to let you go simply because you've got another one, I believe, right after me. So, but what we'll do is
got a few stacked today.
Yeah. What we'll do, if you're cool with it, then is that we'll try and reconnect, Mike, soon. In the next 2 or 3 weeks when you have a free opening where we can sit and talk, and I can, like I said, I like to kind of stream of consciousness go where a conversation takes me, as opposed to, well, I got to ask this about the album, and I got to ask that about the artwork, and you see what I mean? It's a little more restricting. So, especially because you coming from the Tampa, the Florida death metal scene, a lot of the guys that I know, and it'd be really interesting to get your perspectives on some of the things. And again, I know you've spoken at length about the Trey and the Morbid Angel thing, but look, it's a part of your past. No reason to not at least acknowledge it and sort of give your perspective on it and start there, and then just come on up and we'll kind of go from there if you're cool with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to talk to and explain things out in my own way. And I hate those little one-word answers, you know, and that's it. And so I know 25 minutes is
it's
just
hard.
not enough time.
It's hard for me. I just start getting rolling, and then I finally am like, oh, I got to quit already. It's like weird.
Yeah.
So
same thing with me. I mean, I'm in the same boat as that, because I like to explain things out too.
Yeah, for sure.
So we could definitely, in about 2 to 3 weekends. I got a bunch of stuff next weekend. I already planned with interviews and stuff too, but maybe the weekend after that or the one after that for sure.
I'm good on weeknights too. I don't know, how you are in the evenings. If you want to jump on at 7 and end at 9 or something, or 8:30 or whatever, we could do that too. So whatever whatever works.
Working out.
Yeah, whatever will work for you. I'm very flexible on that. In fact, like I said, I took about a month off and shut the channel down simply so I could focus on all the shows I was going to, because I've been to I don't know, about 20 shows in the last month and a half. So it's kind of like, I need to decompress a little bit, and I can't focus all the time on this, but I'd love to have you back on. And everybody out there that's watching, go check out on Profound Lore. It came out on May 17th, Unicursal. My perspectives on it, which I didn't get into deeply, but
we will.
The one thing I wanted to ask you about real quick, though, if you could just hit on, you are the one and only real band that features a synthesizer in death metal, in the Florida death metal scene for sure. Was there a thought process that went into that? Whereas, you got your Obituaries and Executioners and Cannibals and all that. None of those guys are touching synthesizers. What made you want to go that route? And I think I heard you talk about you have a pretty fond love of a band that I have a fond love for. In fact, it's my favorite band. That would be Rush. I don't know if that was kind of an influence or not, but
for sure. Yeah. I'm being that I grew up in the 70s, and you pretty much did too.
Yep.
Everything I listened to back then had keyboards.
Yeah.
Every band. Zeppelin used them, Pink Floyd used them, Deep Purple used them.
Sure.
Even Black Sabbath used them.
Yes, they did.
To me, Ozzy used them. And when I hear keyboards in a song, it just expands the song way past just guitar, bass, and drums. There's so much you can do. And I always wanted to have that. I mean, I love intros and having this intro, but then so many bands, they have a great intro, and then all of a sudden the band starts and you never hear keyboards again. You never hear anything that sounds like the intro.
Right.
So I always thought, I want the intro to start and be grand and good, and then I want the band to keep sounding like that.
Yeah.
So to me, that was what I always wanted to do. I just unfortunately didn't really know any keyboard players that, like in the earlier days. So, luckily we did find somebody in Nocturnus who was actually friends with all the other guys and went to school with them. So I didn't know the guy, but they did. And they said, yeah, we got a friend that plays, has a keyboard and makes up some really weird sounds and stuff, and we'll have him do an intro. And because I wanted some intros, and he did the intro. He made like 2 intros for us and brought his keyboard out to the warehouse and then hooked it up to the PA and played the intro. And then we went into the song. Then, like, during the song, he started kind of playing along with us with some ideas, and it just went from there.
Yeah. You strike me as a closet prog nerd. I'm just going to say, I think we're both closet prog nerds, right? So,
well, I like all kinds of music. So, I mean, I love the stuff like Rush does, especially their older stuff. I love Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's probably one of the original kind of prog bands, if you really look back on it.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
all right, look, I'm going to let you get out of here real quick, and then we're going to reconvene in a couple weeks or something like that and do a full-on gas mask style interview, which would be great. And I appreciate your time today. I was almost remiss. Tim, I keep forgetting, dude. I'm old. Gas masks and hand grenades, where the music melts your mind. I keep forgetting my own catchphrase. He has to keep reminding me. So it's old, dude. I'm old. What can I say? I'm old. So
I know Mike,
thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll hit Liz with my direct contact and just get in touch with me, and we'll go from there. Sound good?
Yep, for sure,
right.
for sure. Sounds good.
Hey, good luck on the success of the album, and we'll be talking soon again, Mike. Thanks for popping on today. I appreciate it.
For sure. See you in a couple weeks.
All right, sounds good, Mike. Thank you, buddy. Take care. Later.
See ya.